All right, Bud, we got you. There we go. All right, well, we're going to get started, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. As you guys know, we do a lot of different Zoom calls every week for our business, but this is by far my favorite Zoom call. Getting to listen to the best owners, basically give you guys an hour every Tuesday morning about what's working for them and how successful they are in terms of running their business, but really what they're doing with their leaders and how you guys as leaders going through the training program can apply this to your own situations. And obviously we've done these for, almost 3 months now, and it's been, a huge success. The feedback's been amazing. And we are very, very lucky today. You guys are going to get to hear from the best owner in telecom, in residential telecom. This guy has been #1 for weeks and weeks and weeks. He's recently spoken on, the Sunday calls with Larry. He's been, a guy that people have been networking with, and, just a great story of someone who has really risen the ranks in our business and is now, up huge money, putting out promotions. He's actually in Long Island running an office, and he's one of Jessica Irish's promotion. But today, Bud's going to talk about how to drive standards and expectations, which, we've been talking a lot about, recruiting and conversations and cycle development and training. But the reason why Bud's so successful is because of his standards and his expectations for his business and his people. So we couldn't be more excited to listen and learn from Bud. So again, if you're on the call, message your fellow leaders, message your fellow owners if you're an owner, to hop on and listen in, because we want to take as much as we can from today's call. So Bud, thanks for setting this up. We're really excited to learn from you today. Your story in the business has been great, and you've been, someone who's really risen over the last 6 months. But really your background, I think, has really set you up to come into this business and have a great mentality. So can you talk a little bit about what you were doing before the business and what made you join this company and sort of want to grow with us?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. Never thought I'd be speaking on one of these, but thank you. Before I started this industry, I was working in law enforcement. I was working as a correction captain on Rikers Island. I did that for 15 years.
Wow. So Rikers Island, you were a correctional captain. And
Yep.
you were telling me that even before that, you were in the mortgage business. And so you were kind of doing sales, and you got into, law enforcement. You really had to change a career, and you did that for 15 years. So, when people say, hey, the field is hard, I imagine the correctional captain were a little bit tougher than maybe the no you would get at the door. What did you learn from that? And then what made you want to get out of it? And then, you moved your way up. You were a manager. You were someone who'd reached sort of the peak of that sort of world. What made you say, okay, now I'm going to take a step back and do entry-level sales to move up again? Because I know that must have been a little bit tough for you to go backwards to jump again forward.
Yeah. Well, one thing I learned from corrections is you definitely got to have tough skin. You develop your mentality basically from, I wasn't the most popular. I was kind of like the bad cop, where my responsibilities was I overseed an entire division of 105 officers. And every morning I would have to go around, and the new inmates that were coming in, I have to go around and confiscate their sneakers. Their sneakers were not permissible. So needless to say, we used to give them what's called patakis, their state issues sneakers. Reason for that is they don't want violence. If someone comes in with sneakers and they can't protect themselves, other inmates would, beat them up to get their sneakers. So no one's allowed to have their sneakers. They're called patakis after Governor Pataki, who was a governor in New York State. So that was my duties every morning, go around confiscating sneakers, giving them a receipt. So needless to say, I wasn't the most popular guy in the facility.
Wow. So you had to get really comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. And it seems to be
Absolutely.
that you've taken that approach of not being afraid of confrontation and really having those conversations with people, and it's helped you in our business. And I know when we were talking about your story as an owner, as you guys have heard, a lot of owners that are now speaking on the call, when COVID happened, their situations were not like this. We had a call on Sunday about all these success stories of people over the last year who really turned the chaos of COVID into an opportunity to get better, to learn, and to grow their businesses. And Bud, you were in a situation where your office was smaller, obviously, than it was before COVID, but you had really low standards in your office. You had people, but they weren't the right people. So what did you do when you realized your office had low standards to fix it, to now build what you have now?
So just taking a look at the overall picture and, the overall roll call of who was there, and having, like, viewing this in the long term. And, in our industry, you have to see, okay, who's the next assistant manager? Who's the next person that could get promoted? And, you have a lot of reflection to do, and ultimately it goes back on you, because you're developing these individuals. And, over COVID, we had Zoom calls to keep the team together. When we came back, about 70% of them came back, but they weren't the right person, right? You couldn't really see yourself promote maybe one, but they weren't individuals that you could build an organization around, because they had bad habits, which I allow, right? That was my fault. It should have been a little bit harder on them. I let a lot of stuff slide by. So COVID was like the ultimate reset to start over brand new and establish high standards.
Yeah, well, it's been a life-changing transition for you. And we've talked and we joked around about your seriousness, and you're kind of a tough guy that is no BS. You just want to get things done and grow. And you were telling me a lot of that, maybe stemmed from your background, how, what you saw your parents go through. Can you talk about kind of like your journey to this country, because you're not from America, and, where your toughness may come from?
Sure. I'm a teddy bear, by the way. I only look tough. Don't let that out too much. That my work ethic comes from my parents. I came over to this country when I was 12 years old, an adolescent, new environment, new culture. So needless to say, you gotta adapt quickly. Really adapt quickly going into my teenage years. When we came over, it was me, my brother, my sister, my parents, 5 of us in a 1-bedroom basement. So needless to say, we didn't have the nicest of upbringing, right? But not once did I see my parents, fight in front of myself or my brothers or sisters. They made sure that we did not want for anything, that we were provided for food, clothing, shelter. That's all you could ask for. I came from a third world country, so even in a 1-bedroom basement, looking back, it was way better than what we had. So really appreciative of what you have.
Yeah.
I always tell my guys, like, regardless of how hard you think you have it, there's always someone out there that's worse off than you are. Kind of like one of my pet peeves, like I go to Costco and I buy water for the office. And one of my pet peeves, I hate seeing it, is they'll open up a bottle of water, take a sip and leave it there when there's countries around the world who are dying for water. People don't appreciate what they have.
Yeah. Well, your humbleness but you're also your work ethic, that combination has led to you to, not only running a top office. I mean, you've been head and shoulders above everybody else in telecom for weeks now. You've got a promotion and you've got 2 more promotions on the way. You got, $250,000 saved. I mean, things are happening. And I know you talked about how, you improving your first round and networking and those types of things really were the difference. So excited to learn from you today, Bud. We appreciate you taking the time to put your slides together. So why don't you bring your screen up, and then we'll go ahead and get this party started. And once again, guys,
Sure.
for today's call, if anybody has any questions during the call, please throw them in the chat. We'll try to answer them as we go, because today's call is going to be about standards and expectations. And as you guys heard, Bud had to tell people to give them their sneakers as a correctional captain. So that was a tough conversation for a lot of you guys. Having tough conversations is where you build standards. So, all right, Bud, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you. Driving standards and expectations within your team. All right. So first, you have to ask yourself, what are standards, right? So some people don't know what standards are. There's a quick definition. Standards are a level of quality and attainment. Everyone has standards. Every company you go has standards. Every campaign we have standards. So standards are there as a measurement. We always talk about SMART goals. So there is a measurable standard for you. It's image, it's production, it's everything. It's your first round retention, second round retention, everything. There's standards in whatever campaign you're on. So why are standards important? Standards are important because they provide people and organization with a basis of mutual understanding. It's there so you could gauge yourself against others. You want to ask yourself, like every Monday we do campaign in the office and we put up the numbers on the board, and a healthy office average on the Verizon side should be at least a 6-piece average. So when I was going through the program, I pride myself in my team having a higher piece average than the office average, right? We drove the needle. So one thing as a leader going through the program, you have to ask yourself, is your team helping the averages or are they hurting it? What is the standard for the campaign? What is the standard for the office? And is your team, are they helping that or are they hurting the averages? Little things like when we do roll call, I'm a stickler for roll call. I'm a neat freak. So on my roll call, it would be ideal if all you see are check marks for everyone that's on time and their numbers, right? There are no writing inside. Writing is bad, like lateness. Why were they late? Out. So that is something that I want to look at. I have standards for that as well. So you and every leader, if you have someone on your team, you should start keeping a team roll call for yourself and spot trends and be like, okay, so I have a lot of people on my team, but most of them are out at least one day a week. Like, what's going on, right? You have to establish that it's not okay. So those are standards that should be established. So the standards are there to provide people with a mutual understanding. Cool. All right, so what are standards? To me, standards are something that's not negotiable. So this is something that, everyone knows. I pride myself in my work ethic, and I say from day one, work ethic is non-negotiable. You have to be willing to work hard. This standards are something that you hold near and dear to your heart. Like, this is something that you truly believe in. And everyone's standards are different. So the good thing about this, and you having a team coming through the training program, is you get to establish what are your standards. naturally, I like my standards to be a little higher, and I tell my guys that all the time. My standards are not going to be lower to make you feel comfortable. You're going to have to elevate. So standards are not negotiable. Don't expect to come in late and have a second round interview. Don't expect to not look the part of a manager and want a second round interview. Like, don't expect to come in late and then you want to have a one-on-one. I have more respect for myself than that. I'm here usually the first one and last one to leave. If you want my time, you need to make time, right? Because this takes up a lot of time. So there's certain things that are not negotiable, and we understand you have a lot going on, but if this really means a lot to you, and for most it does, we're going to find a way to get it done, right? The standards are something that you really truly believe in. Oftentimes, and you see this with goals, people copy each other's goals, and it doesn't really make sense to them. They're just saying it because everyone else is saying it. Where someone could be really money motivated, and the majority of the room is motivated by growth, and then say, yeah, I want to get to management, but really and truly, you're really money motivated. Don't shy away from that. Use that. Okay, I'm money motivated, so I want to have the biggest check in the office. That's it. That's your standard. Same thing when I was in a training program. I wanted my team. I always used to ask Jess, what's the average paycheck in the office? And I pride myself in having the team with the highest paychecks. Right. So that was something that I instilled. Now I pride myself in having the highest paycheck on the campaign, the attached TV. But with this, it's something that you really, truly believe in. Your standards are something that you're passionate about. When you're passionate about something, you really go an extra mile for it. People could tell when you're passionate about something versus when you're not, because it's more real. So it's something that you have to be passionate about. And ultimately, your standard is something that's a reflection of you. Your standards ultimately is a reflection of you. If you have low standards, it's going to reflect not so highly on you. If you have high standards, naturally, you're going to be in a better position because you're always striving for something to be better. Most people are, most leaders, they get sidetracked by this by lowering their standards to attract everyone. And it has a negative effect. It should be elevated. So your standards are a direct reflection of you.
Yep. But I have a question. So I know for a lot of leaders, we hear this on the questions for the leaders call. Like they ask, like, how much time to give someone who's not hitting the standard, right? So if I got someone on my team and, here's my standard of production, here's my standard of, whatever, punctuality, professionalism. And let's say they're just not getting there. What's your time frame for people, and how fast are you moving on, or how fast are you, or how long are you letting someone stick around?
So I had to learn this because the sales came natural to me for whatever reason. And, for the longest, I was expecting everyone to pick it up as quickly as I did. But once I really start building my team, everyone has a different learning curve. So if someone is taken a longer time in picking up the sales, okay, so are they coming in early every day? Are they on time? Are they putting in the extra work? So if they're doing those little things, I will invest more time into them because at least they're making an effort to get better. But if that person who is not hitting standards, they're always late, their image is not on point, it's not worth it, right? You got to be able to help yourself first in order for me to help you.
Yeah, and I also think, like, when you say that, I think there's also that level where you have people that they come in early, they really are great people, they want the opportunity, they just can't put the ball in the hoop, right? For whatever reason,
Yep.
You retrain them, you work with them. And I've seen, owners, I've seen leaders that just hold on to people that don't make the checks they need to make, that aren't hitting the numbers, and they kind of fear by losing that person, so they hold on to them. And you kind of experienced a little bit of that from COVID. You wanted to retain everybody, and you retained a lot of your guys, but by retaining a lot of them, it actually was harder to run your office. So Can you talk a little bit about how when you keep people on your crew that aren't performing, how much it hurts the others?
Exactly, because let's say standards for leaders on the Verizon campaign is 8. You got to get hit 8 twice in our office, 2 weeks in a row to get promoted. Do your teach backs. So if we're saying that the standards for leaders are 8, and you have a leader that hasn't done 8 apps in 2 months, what kind of example are they setting for the new guy? Not only that, you have a new person on your team and you're telling, okay, get the leadership. Okay, but you haven't hit leadership numbers in God knows how long, right? Then you're being looked at as a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So you yourself, you got to uphold your standards. Like when I was in the field, I took pride in hitting leadership numbers by Thursday and go work with my guys, right? Or hit my bell on Verizon, our bell is 2. And my leaders know that, hey, our bell is 2, and the why behind it is you should confidently took someone out or have someone on your team where you could train them, get them money, and you go out and get money the same day. So that's why the standard is 2. So you have to uphold that standard. You can't expect others to do something that you're not currently doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like addition by like a lot of guys, they think by losing a person, they're losing sales, but by sometimes removing someone that really isn't getting ahead, now the rest of your team will have much more respect for you because you're not allowing a certain type of behavior to exist. Like it's just not allowed. And you're really doing that person a favor by saying, hey, the business isn't a good fit, right? Because if you hold on to that person, they're going to get more frustrated that the fact that they're not growing, and eventually they're going to blame you anyways, right? So it's better to be proactive and have these standards and give people the time if they're really trying. But once people show you they can't be consistent, it's really important that those people are talked to and said, hey, maybe the business isn't a good fit. And we don't want to talk about removing everyone from your team, but to build a strong team, there is a process of removing people who really can't cut it. So sorry, Bud, continue. Really good stuff.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, it's so much more stressful for the leader to knowing that someone, they're not up to par and they're always late and you have to invest more time into them, but they're really not worth it. Because if they really, I tell my guys all the time, you can't have this out, you can't want this opportunity for someone else more than they want it for themselves. At some point, they have to show that they want this opportunity to keep investing in them. So to continue, you yourself must uphold holy standards. We touched on that. Like, don't be a hypocrite. This is like, I'm motivated by fear. I don't want to be a hypocrite. So if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to tell my guys, like I tell my guys all the time, I wouldn't ask you to do something that I'm not constantly doing or I haven't done in the past. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. On my standards, your standards should be set very high. We have very high standards in our office, and each office has different standards. In my office, you got to hit 8 2 weeks in a row. Not only that, you have to be able to teach the systems, the 5s, the 8s, LOAs, foreign theory, Fuji. Why? Because you're going to be teaching and training people. How can I have confidence in you to effectively teach and train someone if you don't know what you're talking about? So in order to get promoted in my office, you have to be able to learn the basics, to be able to teach the basics. I don't ever lower my standards to make people feel comfortable. If we're lowering our standards to make people feel welcome, it's not good. Instead, you should teach them and show them how to elevate theirs. If someone is not working out in the field, show them, hey, this is how easy the field is. I'll go out with you and show you how to ring your bell. It's not that hard. As long as you're willing to work hard and keep your attitude, we're going to talk to people and you're going to see results. So don't lower your standards to attract the 4. Your standards are there to help elevate them or eliminate them. Just like this training program is a filtering process. It's there to filter out, individuals. So don't lower to attract everyone. Your standards are high to let you know who you should be investing most of your time with.
Yeah. And if you're a leader, Bud, what do you say to leaders that that maybe they're not doing what they need to do, right? So they have their people and they can say, hey, my people aren't good. But if you're a leader and you're not hitting standards, what would you recommend to that person that needs to be more consistent, that needs to be that example for their guys?
So a lot of time people get too caught up in the production numbers. So if you're not hitting your standards or production, what are you bringing to the table? Do you have excellent organization skills? Are you always on time? Do you take initiative and take more responsibilities in the office? So it's not just about production. Are you on the boards teaching and training? Are your impacts, are they very impactful? Little things like that, you could contribute more to an office rather than just production. In terms of the production, having those conversations. Now, if I have someone that are showing those qualities, I myself will invest in them, try to get them better, whatever the mental hurdle is. Not everyone is going to be the white rabbit, right? Not everyone is not going to be that. But as long as you're striving to hit a certain number and you're working on certain other areas, so you could be, let's say you're a 7 or 8 in the sales, but you could have excellent conversation. You're a 10 in there. You're a 10 with your image. You're a 10 with organization skills. It makes up for that production because the best manager are usually well-rounded, well-versed. Yeah. So there are things that you.
Yeah, when I was talking to you before the call, like you were telling me when you were struggling with your interview, you worked with Leroy and something really clicked. And I think as a leader, sometimes we get caught up in our title, like we're supposed to have it all figured out. Like, I'm a leader and I was good at it and I'm just supposed to know it. But I think the example of networking, and getting on a call or office to get better, putting yourself on a retrain if you need it to get your skills, zoned in to where you can then get back to being consistent. I think the sooner you get into that mentality, the better example you're going to be for other people. And they're going to see the fact that you're not this stubborn, hard-headed person who won't reach out. Cause I think a lot of people get stuck because they don't network. And then you tell your people it's for and do that, it's great because then you get the results. Now your people see that, and I think it just builds a lot more respect amongst each other. So really good stuff. Bud. Let's keep it rocking.
Absolutely. And networking is huge, and you have to ask yourself before you go out on your network, you got to do self-reflection. So you got to ask yourself, am I working the full day? Is my attitude always on point? Right? And so if you're working hard and your attitude is always on point, then you earn the right to network. But if you're not working the full day and your attitude is not on point, those are two things that could be fixed. We work on those first, and then if you're still not getting results, then you network. But oftentimes, leaders, they'll say, well, I'm not getting results, who should I network with? When the answer lies in themselves, they're not working hard enough and their attitude is not on point.
Yeah, they're looking for answers they can just find within. They can talk to somebody about their pitch, but if they're not working the full day and their attitude's not on point, then it doesn't matter what they learned from somebody else. It's still going to be a problem. Really good point.
Exactly. So as far as setting expectations, you got to set realistic expectations. You can't have expectations for someone, okay, first week badge, you're going to do 12. That's just not realistic. You got to have realistic expectations. Like myself, this was new to me. I would say, I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say it's new to almost everyone, what we do with the door-to-door aspect, right? So people don't know what they don't know. You got to have tools for them. So you got to have a roadmap for them. I know before GPS, and I'm showing my age, we used to go to gas station and get one of those atlas map and navigate that way, right? GPS wasn't a thing. You're laughing because you probably saw your parents did it. That's how we navigate. There were no phones. You check on the map where you have to go. So have a roadmap for them, such as, have a pitch written out, training manual, corporate structure, team binders. They need all these tools so they know what to expect, so they're not overwhelmed. So you have to always constantly have to give your guys things to do. People need guidance. Like I said, they don't know what they don't know. how are you expecting me to do something if I don't know what to do? Show me how to do it, teach me how to do it, and then let me do it. So set clear expectations. And another thing with setting expectations, you always, 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 and I got this with Jess, because when I was started, I was great at the sales, and people ask me what's working for you, and I'd be like, oh, I just do it. I would run stations and be like, oh, just get it done, right? But you always have to explain the why behind everything. Now, when I have conversations with my leaders, I'm like, well, do you guys see the why behind it? This is the why behind why we're doing this. And if they don't get it, I'll explain it to them. And sometimes, okay, they'll say yes, so explain the why to me. Because some people will just, get on the yes, yes, yeah, I know the why. Well, explain it to me, because I want to know that you comprehend what the why behind it. So always explain the why behind everything, because you don't know who's in the room. It could be someone who's brand new that's listening to conversations. We have an open door policy. Only time it's really a closed door is if it's something like really, really personal. But if it's something that's field related, training program related, don't have pride. Someone else could learn from your mistakes. And that's another mistake, that sometimes individuals have, where they could have one conversation that could impact many people instead of having many conversations when you're addressing the same issue.
Yeah. I think it always seems like people forget how important someone's first week is, and how fragile someone can be in those first few days. And when you kind of blow by something, or you just kind of assume the person may understand, that one thing may be the reason why they doubt themselves, or they doubt you, or they doubt the business. And I think like being thorough with your new people, and like looking them in the eye, and really, like you said, creating that roadmap of expectations. We talk about using future talk a lot, like what we're going to be doing this week, and then next week, and the week after that. Planning things out, it really does help, because when you can create that structure for people, it relieves some of that stress, and they feel a lot more safe by working with you. But when you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants, and you're just like, all right, let's go over here. And I've seen leaders kind of like, they look lost, and their people are trying to belt loop them, but it doesn't look like it's working. You can make people seem like, look at you and think, man, this person's not organized. So it's so true when you say, hey, take your time explaining things to people, because this is the first time they're ever learning it, right? This is not like they've heard this before. They've probably never done door-to-door sales. They've probably never been in a training program. They've probably never worked on commission. They've probably never worked the schedule. So yeah, take your time and have those conversations and be thorough. I think that's a really good.
Absolutely. And with new hires, I do the new hire training, and I give them a piece of paper, and I'm like, this is your cycle of development. This is for you to hold me accountable, what you have to learn in the next 2 days. Everything's in the manual. If I don't teach you, hey, bud, you're supposed to teach me LOAs today. We didn't cover that. So there has to be accountability on both sides, and just showing them that. And, your new guy, you should want to be looked at for an analogy purpose. I love analogies. A new guy, let's say there's a fire driller, there's a fire, there's always the fire marshal. You should be the fire marshal, always in charge. The new person, they're going to be scrambling around. They don't know what to do, right? But in times of chaos, they should always be one voice, and they listen to that voice. That should be you, the leader. People are attracted to that.
Yeah. When you have a person, I got a question about it. When you got a person that you go over standards expectations with, and they're really just totally not following through on it, right? You're telling them, hey, this is when you got to be in. You're telling them, hey, this is what you got to wear. You're telling them this is how you got to act. And then they don't listen. What's your tolerance level when someone's brand new? Because I think sometimes I've seen myself, I was too lax. And then there was times when I was way too hard too soon. So how do you handle that new guy that's coming into a whole new environment, in terms of the patience you have for them, and like meeting the expectations you set?
So you gotta have patience, especially, and my leaders know, like a brand new person coming in. Like I said, we have very high standards for our office. Looking around the Verizon campaign, it irks me when individuals, they go to the field in t-shirts and basketball shorts. It just irks me. So in our office, we wear khakis. You can wear khaki shorts, polo shirts tucked in, no t-shirt. I hate wearing a polo. I have a big gut. It shows my gut, but I still wear a polo. It is what it is, right? Because you have to look like a professional. My leaders know that the new person coming in, they might not have khakis. So you're going to have to invest in that person the first week. Okay, if they don't have it, they come in with definitely no basketball shorts, no sweatpants, no joggers. If they come in with jeans, then you have to invest in that person, go to the store, it costs $10, $15, get them a pair of khakis, right? To look presentable, right? So your image is a very, very big part in what we do. You're going up to someone's door, you have to be looked as a professional. Have a collar shirt tucked in, so you look more presentable. So it starts from day one with the feel image. So when the new person starts, you have to be patient with them. Know that they might not have the funds to go out and get a shirt and tie right away, right? So these are little things through conversations that you will find out. And by being approachable, the new person will tell you that, hey, I don't have, a suit and tie, or I don't have a shirt, I don't have this, I don't have that. So we could set up goals, you hit goals, and we could go shopping, right? Little things like that to show that you care.
Love that.
So as far as expectations, it starts from day one. For the leaders, this is your second round interview from the first time you're interacting with that individual. For myself, from the first time they come into training, right? What's expected of day one? Find out what their goals are. Cool. Okay, so these are your goals. I'm going to help you get to your goals, but in order to get to that, I need something in return. You're going to have to work hard, right? Definitely going to have to work hard and have a great student mentality. So it starts from day one. Set up realistic expectations. I'm here to help you get your goals, but in return, this is what I need in return. Are you willing to do that? Can you do that for me? So set, and individuals, they like that. Be like, okay, this person really cares about me. They want to help me hit my goals, but you're making a verbal agreement with them. And most individuals, when they give you their word, they tend to hold it up because it's their word. They don't want to be a hypocrite. So, hey, I'm going to help you do this, but in return, can you do this for me? You're going to have to do this for me. Is that fair? Like I said, work ethic is non-negotiable. I tell my leaders all the time, pride myself in it. We have tons of road trips that come into our office lately, and their number one takeaway is, you guys work really freaking hard. I'm like, yeah, we do. Like, we don't shy away from that. I was bold enough to say it, and I told them that I wanted our office to be the hardest working office on the campaign. Clearly we are. So, and other office, when they come to our office, they see how hard we work. It's not like we have a golden goose territory where we have brand new open for sale popping up every 2 months, right? We don't have open for sale. It's the same territory. It's a vintage market. We just work hard, take care of the territory. So work ethic is non-negotiable. You got to be willing to put in the work. Another thing, great attitude is a must. Right? You can't be a Debbie Downer. You gotta have a great attitude. During the cycle of development, I tell the new person, you're probably gonna hear this word attitude until you're blue in the face. Attitude, 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 right? Our training program is mentality based. It's 99% mentality. And I could teach anyone how to sell files. It practically sells itself. I coach and develop the mindset. Right? That's what I'm here to do for you. Like, but in order to do that, you have to have a great attitude. Regardless if you did 5 yesterday or you roll it, you have to have a great attitude, because you never know who's looking up to you and they see you in such high light and you didn't have the day that you wanted. And then they look at you and be like, wow, if that person is phenomenal and they look horrible, yeah, this is not for me. So you don't know who you're impacting on a daily basis. That's why attitude is important. If you have a team, you should never call one of your entry levels and mega help to them. And a lot of leaders, they do this where they'll neg out in front of their new guy about the territory, about an interview, about whatever, about personal relationship. Their attitude is clearly not there, right? If you want to neg out, come neg out to me. Like after everyone leaves or all the distros out, come neg out to me. Don't neg out to like another distro. They shouldn't see you negging out. And student mentality should always be on point. Never, always be humble. You could learn something new from everyone. I love my niece to death. She is 9 years old, and I swear to God, her mentality is stronger than some of my leaders. Because I try to see her every week, but sometimes I don't, and she gets it. She's like, I know, Uncle, you're busy at work, but I know why, because you're making money to pay for my college, so it's okay if I don't see you every week. So I think back to some of my leaders, because this is something that I spoke to my niece about, and she gets it, and she's 9 years old. And these are conversations that we have with our significant others when they give us flack for not being there for them. And my 9-year-old niece, she gets the why behind it already, and she's 9. I'm like, wow, she's going to be something special. She sees very good student. I only said that like twice around her, and she picked up on it. She's like, yeah, you're going to buy me nice presents and pay for college. That's why I know you're working so hard. It's okay. And she gets, so you're always willing to learn from someone.
So, Bud, one of the things I took away from what you just said was how when you coach people, your first thing is attitude and work ethic. And you said that a couple times now, where it's like, I think a lot of people when they have people on their team, they're trying to figure out how to raise their standards. They're thinking, okay, I got to fix their clothes. I got to fix, their intro short story, and we got to really get them better at presentation. But it seems like your whole standard first is great attitude and great work ethic. That's the first starting point, right? And I think it's a good lesson for everyone that's listening on, like, when you're seeing people not perform or you're seeing people not do something that they should be doing, check those things first. Like, you need to make sure that everyone, as you've said many times, it's non-negotiable. Like, you got to work really hard. You got to work your tail off. You got to have a great attitude. Like, that's it. If you can't do those two things, we're not even going to get to the rest of this stuff that we're talking about. So I love that. And Bud, you've been such a great example of like setting the tone for your guys, and they're obviously following your lead in terms of the hardest working and the best attitude on the program. So I just wanted to comment on that, because I thought that was important, because I used to get lost in the minutia of like, why is a person not performing or what's wrong with them? They may just not be working hard, and it's simple as that. They may not have a good attitude. So you got to check those boxes first before you work on other things with your people. So continue on. I just wanted to comment.
So how to drive it. So our office is very, very, very competitive. I'm a very, very, very competitive individual. I hate to lose. So we have challenge board. Everyone is very, very, very competitive. So you want to use competition to drive your standards. If you're saying, and I know there's some individuals are going to say, well, I'm not competitive. I'm going to bet my bottom dollar that you are. And I'll give you an example. So when you were younger, when mom and dad would come home, did you always have to be the first one to go give them a hug? Chances are you did. You would push your siblings out the way. So you're competitive, right? If you were like, no, I don't, we always wanted the nicer toys at Christmas. Everyone is competitive. They just don't know how to bring it out in them. So with being competitive, on the Verizon campaign, we have, in our office, most office, they have standards and goals. So as a new person, we start with talk tos, then after their badge, your standard is 1, goal is 2. Now, once you start pushing for leadership, bump it up 1 to 3. You get promoted to leader, your standard is now 2 to 3. You hit 3 days in a week. Now we're going to elevate that to 2 to 4. I was the first one in our office when I was in the same office with Eileen, Olivia. I was the first one to start putting 2-4 as my standards and goals, and Jones affected people. Now they do 2-4, right? Now, in order to elevate to 5, you got to do 4s, maybe at least once every week, 2 every week. Then you earn the right to go 2 to 5. I'm still waiting for someone to consistently do 2 to 5 and then elevate that to 3 to 5. So you use competition with your standards and goals to drive it within your office. But don't be that guy or girl that's just putting up big numbers on standards and goals. Goes back to being a hypocrite, and you're rolling it and you know you're not capable of doing that. So if you're going to put it on the board, you got to live up to it. You have to. There's no way around that. If you're a competitive individual, you're going to use your standards and goals and competition to drive it. The second step is show that your standards are attainable. So if you're in an office and you're a leader right now and no one is hitting standards, like I said on Verizon, it's 8. I assure you that there are examples throughout the campaign that are doing 8 a week. So you could be a big fish in a medium fish at that in a small pond. I assure you there are bigger fish in the ocean. So lead from the front. So for example, I was looking back, I like to take photos of my roll call. And I was looking back the other night in the month of December where none of my leaders hit standards. And that week, it was right around Christmas time. I was training this girl, Judy. That week I did 17 with her, training her in the field, and none of my leaders hit standards. And I went in on them. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? How can I go out there and do this when I'm part-time and you guys have more time in the field? And that was like a trigger point also, is not being afraid to have tougher conversations and call people out on their lack of not performing. If I could do it and we work the same team, you're in my same car ride, why can you do it? So leading from the front, showing that the standards are attainable. And you want to make standards attractive. People love challenges. You don't want to water down your standards. Standards are there. Like I said, we do it all the time, where we'll stand online to get into a club for an hour when there's a club right across the street that you could get into and there's no wait time. Why do we do it? Because of the standard of that club, right? There's a reason why you will pay to get in and pay $400, $500 for a table where you could just go and have a regular night. People are attracted to high standards. So don't water down your standards. And those are the 3 tips on how to really drive it. Be competitive, show that they're attainable, and make your standards attractive.
Nice. That's all really good stuff. Yeah, guys, please ask questions in the chat. I'll start, Bud, with my question. I think for a lot of people when they first join the business, the tough conversations, and we've hit this up so many times in these calls, but the tough conversations are the ones that people struggle with. You know what I mean? Because they're worried about not being liked. They're worried about maybe rubbing someone the wrong way. So how do you look at those conversations? When a new person needs to get better, instead of ignoring it, going right to them and kind of getting in their face a little bit, but understanding there's a purpose to that conversation.
So first, you have to show that you care about the person. If you're afraid to have conversations, you're hurting that person in the long run. It goes back to when I played football in a wrestling college, and I had a football team that have a lot of coaches. And some coaches would just yell at me just because they yell. And my position coach, I played offensive line, he told me that if I'm not screaming at you, that's when you need to worry. I'm hard on you because I care about you. If I don't care about you, I'm not spending time to get you better. So if you have a relationship with someone and they know that you have their best intentions at heart, they're going to listen to you even if that conversation is not so pleasant, because they know that conversation will help them get better.
Yeah, that's great. And I know when I was new, I was so worried about people not liking me. I was always trying to, be everybody's buddy, and it really hurt because when people were my friends and everyone thought I was a cool guy, but they weren't getting results, it's kind of like they didn't like me anyways after time because they felt like I wasted their time. So it's really your job as a leader is to make people better and to have conversations when they need to be had and not wait. But we got a question here. making that decision when you left correctional enforcement and said, I'm going to do better for myself? What was the turning point?
The turning point, because at corrections, I had a lot of responsibilities. I was given a lot of responsibilities, going above and beyond. And in corrections, it's very political. It's all about who you know. Individuals get a preferred command with less inmate contact who just came out the academy because their uncle was a chief. So, the final straw was basically seeing other captains who has less time than I did, don't work as hard as I do, don't have nearly as much responsibilities as I do, don't take nearly a fraction of the risks I did, being given cushy position to ride that out for the rest of their career. I'm like, why am I risking everything and not being rewarded? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So we got another question here. That's great. I mean, you kind of hit that glass ceiling and you saw the politics and you were like, all right, I really want to get into a situation where my performance can really be the final say. So we got a question here from Alexander. Hey, Van and Bud, first of all, thank you for taking the time. How do you build confidence back up in someone that hasn't hit their goals in a couple weeks?
So it goes back, are they working hard? Do they always have a positive attitude? Now, if they are, if you need be, you owe it to that person. If they're working hard and they're always positive, you owe it to them to figure out what's wrong. So take them on a retrain, right? Build their confidence through little things, minor things. Know what someone likes and give them little tasks to complete it and build their confidence up with that. The littlest of things will boost anyone's confidence, whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah, and it seems like too, like when people, your barometer for anyone that's not hitting their goals goes back to what we talked about. Is their attitude great? And when people aren't hitting their goals, sometimes their attitude can be struggling because maybe they are losing their confidence. But then you go even deeper. Are they working hard? Is their student mentality good? Is the effort and is the energy in place? Because if you have someone that really wants it, those people, you want to work with them and you want to take them on that retrain. You want to give them that time because the sales, sometimes it's something so small that once you can fix it, that confidence goes through the roof. And now that person, they're no longer worried whether they're going to ring the bell. And now they're focused on the opportunity. But like you said before, Bud, when you have someone that's not hitting their goals, but they're not working hard, they're not coming in early, their attitude stinks, they're not asking questions, I think you kind of know where that conversation's going, right? It's like, hey, listen, I don't think the business is going to be a good fit, right? And I'm sure those conversations, you have those, and 9 out of 10 times the person's going to say, hey, I agree with you. And they're going to appreciate that you're not wasting their time anymore. And they're not wasting yours. But then you probably get that person 1 out of 10 that'll fight you. And they'll say, no, you're right. I do need to work harder. I do need to come in early. That's my fault. And those people can become amazing. So that's really great.
They're humble. They're humble in themselves to know that they need to improve on certain things. Right? It's like a leader who's training and they, well, I had someone with me today. That's why I didn't perform. And to me, that's crazy because when I'm training, it's fun because I'm not doing anything different when I'm by myself versus when I'm training someone. If anything, it's more fun because now I have a body. It helps my icebreaker. I have a twin brother, twin sister, backup dancer, right? Bodyguard, whatever it is, it's a natural icebreaker. So if anything, it helps. And you show that you're doing the same exact thing when you're by yourself and when you're with someone. And that's why leaders, they struggle because they try to change things when they start training, when you should be doing the same exact thing. If you're doing all the right things when you're by yourself, training is a piece of cake.
I'll tell you, what you just said about the backup dancer and the bodyguard, that was my favorite icebreaker. Or saying this is my twin brother. And if you're with me and I said, this is my twin brother, Bud, that would make people laugh so hard because they're like, wow, this obviously isn't true. And you have someone maybe a little smaller, this is my bodyguard and all that kind of stuff. It's just all about, teaching people how to have fun, teach people how to have good icebreakers. And when you can teach people the simple things about work ethic and attitude, it really does make a difference. Well, guys, on behalf of, but we appreciate you taking the time, putting this together. You are kicking ass in so many phases of our business, and we're lucky to have you as a great example for the residential telecom and for all the owners. And I recommend anybody that's on the call, take down Bud's information. It's sitting right here on the screen, his phone number and email, and he's really great at responding and getting back to people. And Bud, we really appreciate your time. Any last words of advice for the guys?
Yeah, don't be afraid to be different. Different is good. I was prejudged coming into this business. There is no cookie cutter way. Back it up with massive, massive results, right? But don't be afraid to take chances. That's what our business is made of, right? We take no's to the face. Don't be afraid to be different. Just be different. Be yourself. When you're yourself, you're genuine.
Yeah, and I think anybody that's been listening to the calls and watching, you guys are seeing the diversity we have from owner by owner, and their personalities and the way that they carry themselves and the way they talk. I mean, there's no cookie cutter person for our business, but the things that all these people have in common, like we've talked about, it's that PhD, that poor, hungry, determined attitude, that, insane work ethic, attitude, and obviously continuing to be humble and be a good student. And Bud, you've been a great example of those things. So great meeting today. I have a ton of notes. We appreciate you taking the time. Everybody, please reach out to Bud if you have any more questions, and we'll be back here next Tuesday, same time, same place. Thanks, Bud. Appreciate your taking